write books. Does anybody like to read books here? Are there any readers? Yeah. And does anybody like to write? Are there any writers? Oh, cool. Awesome. Feel free to come in closer, everybody. Come closer. Yeah.
And raise your hand if you have written a book that is published. Like, let's find all the other writers in here. Yay!
Or if you raise your hand, you've written a book and it's not published, or published. Either one.
Yay! All right. So we published others.
So, I thought we would start. So today we're here because we both have books about food. And does anybody like food? Yeah? Cool. So, my books are about breakfast food, and Mia's book actually just came out this week. So maybe we'll sing happy birthday to the book in a little bit. But her book is called Food for the Future. And but I thought we would start off today by reading one of my books. They're called they're part of a series called Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. Does anybody know what happens when you close the refrigerator? Does anybody have any guesses as to what happens? No? Nobody? Okay. Well, in my fridge, the food comes alive. And I wrote a story about it. And it is called Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast. Now, this series has 5 books in it right now. The first book is a race for the last drop of syrup. Now, I like to change up the genre with each book. So this book is a race, and that's the first one. The second book, they all have fridge problems. Has anyone ever opened the fridge and smelled something kind of funny? Yeah. Well, that's what happens in The Case of the Stinky Stench. And has anybody ever opened the fridge and things were turning a little bit frozen or getting a little frostbite? Well, that's what happens in Mission Defrostable. Has anybody ever opened the fridge and you were really excited to eat something, but when you took it out, it was all moldy and spoiled and gross and disgusting? Has that ever happened to anyone? Yeah? Well, that's what happens in Short and Sweet. In this one, Lady Pancake and Sir French Toast, they start to spoil, so they visit Professor Biscotti, who has a D. Oh, you've had spoiled food before. Yeah. You know what? You know what? I think you saw the animal crackers on the cover of this one. Is that what you're looking at? Yeah. Well,
yes.
So they start to spoil. So they visit Professor Biscotti, who has a de-spoiling ray. Unfortunately, it works too well, and it shrinks them into tiny little kids. You see, she's got a little teddy bear. He's got a blankie. And this is the newest one. Has anybody ever opened the fridge and the light bulb was out? Has that ever happened? It's a little more rare, but it might happen. So this is called The Great Caper Caper. And I was going to read this today. Now, does anybody know what a caper is? Does anybody know? Well, a caper actually has 2 meanings. Number 1 is a type of food, and it is a berry that people pickle. And a flower bud that people pickle, and they put them on their salads or sandwiches or chicken piccatas or pastas or things like that. I don't really like capers, which is why I made him the villain. And so then the second meaning of caper is a robbery. And you can come in here if you want. Kids, come closer. We haven't started yet. Big kids too, come closer. Adult kids can come closer. So this one here so caper also means a robbery, and this is the Great Caper Caper because it's the great caper the food, caper the robbery. So it's like the great food robbery. So I'm gonna start by reading. Oh yeah, you excited? I'm excited too. So this book, I'm gonna start reading it right now. The Great Caper Caper, written by me and illustrated by Brendan Kearney. Does anybody know what an illustrator is? What the illustrator does? Yeah, what's the illustrator do?
It's someone who draws or has the pictures.
Yeah, draws the pictures, exactly. So I'm the author, I wrote the words, and the illustrator, Brendan, drew the pictures. See? Brie and tofu, Professor Biscotti, the fruitcake, the beets, and lastly, Inspector Croissant took their seats. So these are all friends from their previous. A student emailed me recently and said, "Are you ever going to put Elvis Parsley in a book?" And I was like, so much better than this veggie. It's actually a vegetable too, right? So this is the big gatefold page that every book has. And so that is the Great Caper Caper. It's probably my favorite one in the series for now, or at least until
your next one.
Attack of the Stones comes out in 2024. But, so can you tell us a little bit about this book and how you came up with the idea for it, or I don't know, any thoughts? Yeah, I'd love to hear the story of where it came from.
Well, so I'll back up to the beginning.
Oh, go for it.
My very first picture book is Sumo Joe. And I had entered a competition at Lee & Low, which is a medium-sized publishing company. And raise your hand if you thought I won to make this book. No, I didn't win. I lost. But they offered me editorial help, and I went through multiple revisions, and they ended up publishing it. And that's when Josh stepped in.
That sounds like a win.
So like runner-up is just as good. And then, so I had the book out there, and then I just met Josh through the writing community, and he said, "Have you ever heard of Writer's Loft?" And I said, "No." And he said, "You should join."
Has anyone here heard of the Writer's Loft?
Many writers.
It's an organization in Hudson, Massachusetts, but they do a lot of stuff for kids. Anyway, go ahead.
And so they had a picture group, critique group, and he said, "You should join." So I joined, and many more books came because of that. Then during the COVID pandemic, I decided to self-publish a book. So I wrote this, which was, it's the same format that I wrote for a book as a hired writer for Scholastic. That book was called Asian Pacific American Heroes. And so I learned how to write kind of like middle grade biography, because I was very bad in the beginning. Because our daughter, this is my husband back here, our middle daughter is a big athlete. And in high school, she said, there are no Asian American female athletes. And I was like, what about Chloe Kim? You love Chloe Kim? And she said, okay, Chloe Kim, and that's it. And I was like, no. There's a lot that, there's a lot of role models that you just don't know about. So I wrote this book and kickstarted it and published it. And then we tried to sell it to Scholastic. It's literally very similar, except for the and they said no. But then, 4 or 5 months ago, they said yes. So it's coming out in June. Reprinting in June. So it's available through the flyers and through the book fair. And so I had a lot of book manuscripts between the first one and this one, dozens that I wrote that were rejected and rewritten, and the process,
We all do. You mentioned how, your first ones were bad, but I would say that everyone's are bad. It takes practice to get better at writing for all of your stories at the beginning, and eventually they get better. But so, my first stories were pretty terrible too, and I kept practicing, and they got better.
And one thing you'll notice that Josh and I write a lot of rhyming picture books. So I wrote a rhyming picture book about the shape of Lux. It was like good luck symbols all over the world. And I got 2 editors to say, I'll take a meeting with you. So the first editor said, from American Book, she said, I really liked the book and I wanted to publish it, but sales and marketing said no, because there wasn't really a holiday to hang it around. And I was like, and they're like, no. And because they said, we're a really small publishing company, and we kind of need to hang it around the kinds of books we already make. So we do a lot of food, we do a lot of sustainability, we do a lot of culture, multicultural.
Is anyone familiar with Barefoot Books? They're actually local from around here.
In Concord.
They're based in Concord.
And so when she said sustainable, I knew, because I had been a children's book blogger for 13 years. And I was one of their reviewers, and I go to all their events. And so, I think because we knew each other for a really long time, that was maybe one of the reasons why I got the meeting. So when she said, so sort of when the topics floated up there, we liked the format, but we needed a different focus. And I said, sustainable farms. Because I had a couple of farms that popped into mind, and I'll talk about them when we get to the page. And then Lisa, the editor, said, sustainable farms, perfect. We don't have a book like that. We love it. Go for it. And 2 weeks later, they got a manuscript for me, because I already had the format. And then actually fairly quickly they said, yes, we'll do it. And then the strangest thing they said, and it will be out next year. Now, if you know the picture book world, usually it takes 2 years, 3 years, plus, you know, and sometimes longer. Right?
Most of my books are 3 or longer, unless they're sequels. They're almost always at least 3.
So they said, no, we want it out fast. And I was like, okay, let's go, you know? And so it technically was good. Well, our goal was to get out in March before Earth Day. So we didn't quite hit that, but I would say start to finish it was about 17 months.
That's pretty fast.
Yeah.
Faster than anything I did. Can we all just sing happy birthday to the book?
My birthday was on Tuesday.
Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to the future. Happy birthday to you.
Mexican and half Thai, and he lives in London. And I'm half Japanese, half Chinese, and I'm married to a Korean American, and I live in Boston. So we got some diversity there. And
I'm gonna hold up a copy too.
so I didn't realize that we memorize our books.
I've read them a lot more times. Yeah, it's okay.
So
Yeah.
I should have gone first.
They're easier to memorize than rhyme.
Yeah.
My book rhymes.
I know.
And I don't have it memorized. So, but I do have some swag. So this is Food for the Future: Sustainable Farms Around the World.
Oh, and after we read, we will be signing books, and there's Mia has some fun stuff.
Especially trying to do an event on a 3-day weekend in the middle of graduation and, you know, communions and confirmations and all kinds of events. And we're so lucky to have you guys show up for us today. So thank you so much.
Thank you for coming, and thank you to Hummingbird Books for hosting.
Yes.
And also, if anybody knows does anybody know any teachers? Does anybody know a few people? Yeah.
Teacher.
Well,
Our old teacher.
I'm married to a teacher, and I can tell you that we have enough mugs and candles. So if you're planning on getting a gift for your teacher at the end of the school year, a gift card to an independent bookstore is probably the best gift you could give outside of adult beverages. So.
They do. I can vouch for Emily, right? They do. Because Emily and I would see each other at every children's book event in Boston for years, and she would have this staff, and she'd be like, "Oh, I'm getting them all from my teacher friends."
Signed books or gift cards to independent bookstores like Hummingbird Books are great gifts for teachers. So just keep that in mind as the year wraps up. Thank you all so much. And
we have a round of applause.